It's a question that's on a lot of minds. Where does the dollar go from here? So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. And we're going to talk about it in a sophisticated way. Okay, so everybody these days, if you're paying attention to your finances, geopolitics, macroeconomics, is worried, right? The dollar is sliding. So where does it go from here? So the way to think about this, and I want you to think about this in a sophisticated way, and then we're going to talk about havens and the whole 9 yards. So the dollar slid, right, big time after Liberation Day. And since then, it kind of bottomed out, it bounced back a little bit, and now it's kind of sliding a little bit again. So that's kind of what's happened over the last year. Now, the first thing that you should know is that those effects are real. And what I mean by that is, if your portfolio, right, the average portfolio this year in America was up maybe like 9, 10%, something like that. Now the dollar slid by about 10 to 12%, depending on how you count it. So in real terms, the average portfolio is zero, right? And I always say to people, you'd be lucky if you break even last year. So that's where you are. You need to factor in the slide in the dollar into how, things are actually doing. This is what a lot of financial advisors and finance guys don't tell you. So I thought I'd start there. Just some really practical advice, way to think about it. Now, the dollar. The reason the dollar is sliding is very simple, right? We should all know it. And it's sort of, I'm going to say it out loud because we're in this limbo where nobody really wants to talk about it sensibly, right, in America. But the reason the dollar is sliding is that America is collapsing, right? It's not rocket science, right? So what has America done to devalue the dollar, right? Well, it's threatened its friends and allies. It's declared a trade war on them. It's threatened to invade Greenland. Like, just go down the list of crazy kind of stuff you can do, right? So world is losing trust and confidence in America and in the dollar as it collapses. Now, the real fireworks for the dollar have not begun yet. They haven't even close to begun yet. Think about that pattern I outlined for you. Dollar slid after Liberation Day big time, and then it kind of bottomed out, and then it went up a bit, and now it's kind of like flatlining, right? So what's happening here is that the world, and we know this from the statistics, right? The world is not like sort of actively selling off dollars yet. It's kind of slowing how much it puts into dollars, which was going up, right? Every year as when America was a stable country. So the big fireworks haven't begun yet. That's when the big dollar sell-offs begin to happen, and in whatever way, right? Dollar-denominated assets, stocks, bonds, the dollar itself, whatever. So the deal here is that this is the year, probably, where the fireworks may begin, all right? And what I mean by that is that the big sell-offs, like I said, haven't begun yet. And the reason they haven't begun, right, is that there's no what we call an orderly exit mechanism. Orderly exit mechanism means that you can get out without devaluing or burning yourself or causing a big crash, right? Now, from the dollar, which was the foundation of the global macroeconomy and the financial system in the post-war era, there's no orderly exit mechanism. So imagine that you're a huge, sovereign wealth fund or pension fund all over the world, or a government or whatever, and you want to begin divesting from dollars. The problem you have is that if you go first, you may be the one to cause the crash. And if you go first and you sell off one tranche or set of your dollars, you devalue the rest, all right? So everybody's kind of afraid to make the first big move. We haven't even seen the first big moves away from the dollar happen yet. We've seen small ones. That's why the dollar is flatlining. That's why it kind of slid after Liberation Day. That was people losing faith and confidence in it. The big moves have not happened yet, but they're beginning to happen. So just in the last week, for example, Amundi, which is one of the world's largest asset managers, if you haven't heard of it, that's okay. I'm just kind of informing you and educating you, said we are going to now structurally invest less in US-based assets. Now, that is the beginning of a flight away from the dollar, all right? PIMCO, which is the world's most sophisticated bond fund, it's an American one, right? Some of the smartest guys in the world, said last year, we are going to, dial down our dollar exposure. So the moves are coming. They're ahead of us still. Nobody wants to go first because they're going to cause a crash that's going to hurt them too. The problem that we have here is that at some point, those moves are almost inevitable, right? People are just freaking out, right? They're reaching a state of panic. Can we trust this America? Can we have any confidence that Trump is going to sort of, pay back the debt or not attack us or not rip up, whatever treaties we have or, just become our enemy? So at some point, somebody is going to be forced to make the first move, whether it's Japan, whether it's China, whether it's Europe. And it doesn't matter who the first one is, right? Because the first one is going to trigger the second one, it's going to trigger the third one. And that's not even really how, this is called a risk cascade, all right? Think of it as a crash. That's not even really the point. The point is that if somebody anticipates that the other guy is going to make the first move, they may make the first move to preempt them. Do you see what I mean? So we get into really sort of tricky dynamics. So the real fireworks are ahead of us. Now, that's really important for you to understand because your finance guys are not telling you this. And I know this, right? Because in my one-on-one sessions, I hear from people what their finance guys are telling me. I hear from, average people with everyday financial advisors. I hear from, very, very wealthy people who have entire finance teams. And they all tell me the same thing, which is that their finance guys, right, are not sort of in tune with reality on this score. They're just saying, don't worry, everything will be okay. There's no need to think about it. The dollar will be fine at the end of the day. I don't think that's true. And I don't think you think that's true. I don't think anybody really thinks that's true. If we understand that the big moves are still ahead of us to come, the fireworks, right, the real sell-offs in the dollar, then we have to think to ourselves, well, how much further can it slide? If it slid 10% last year and the big moves haven't begun yet, then imagine how much further down we have to go, right? Are we talking 20%, 30%? I won't put a number on it for you in this video, right? What I will say is, so I created Havens, which is this mini hedge fund. You guys can all subscribe to it if you want. One of the reasons I created Havens is so that we could hedge against a collapsing dollar, okay? And in Havens, we do that in very simple ways. I won't get into it, but the point is, it's very important for you to do it now, okay? Because I don't think there's a world in which the dollar sort of magically goes back to what it was. Now, I think it's also important to understand, and I know this is getting long, so bear with me, because I want you to understand this in a sophisticated way, okay? The way to think about this is not, math, really. It's got nothing to do with sort of interest rates and all this nonsense. It's really simple, right? When countries become unstable, when they become authoritarian, when they begin going through the kinds of implosive processes that America is going through, then their currencies sell off. We've seen this all over the world. In the 90s, we saw it in Latin America and Asia. In the 2000s, we saw it in Russia. I mean, it's an old story in history, right? It's almost impossible to say that you would become an unstable country, a banana republic, as some people say. Whatever you want to call it, authoritarian fascist country. Just basically, right, unstable failed state. And also say that you will have a stable currency. Impossible. So I want you to understand it in those big picture terms, right? Geopolitics and macroeconomics connect at this level. So I don't think that the dollar has, right, like a great future ahead of it. That's not to say that it's going to collapse overnight, but it is to say that we're at the beginning of a structural transformation in the macroeconomy, away from the dollar. And we can all sense it and we can all feel it, right? We can all see it in the way that the dollar is performing. So one of the most important things that has to be done, right, at a personal level is to hedge this and account for it and reconstruct your portfolio around it, right? Because the world is changing now. It's changing very, very fast. And I would be pretty surprised if this year we didn't see some big moves, right, in this regard. I'd be pretty surprised, for example, if all this didn't come to fruition, right? The things that I'm talking about, the big fireworks to hit the dollar. Because the world has lost confidence and trust. And, the big picture way to think about this, guys, is the one that you already know intuitively, right? And I think that sometimes your finance guys or the financial press or whatnot makes you second guess your intuition. Don't do it. Simple way to think about this is it's a collapsing country, right? The currency can only hold on for so long. Trump will try to juice it. They'll try to do all sorts of tricks and shenanigans. But at the end of the day, if your country is collapsing politically, socially, morally, right, currency is cooked. So think about it that way. All right. So that's just a little explainer. I don't know if I hope that was edifying. I hope I didn't try and cram too much in for you guys into one video. There's a lot to talk about. I might just go and make a second one in a second because there's so much to talk about. All right, thank you for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon. Just leave a comment if you want me to make videos on certain topics. I'm happy to do it. All right, thank you. See you soon.